Hello and welcome back to the channel and another video in what will be a little mini series of playing different rounds on different courses. And the first thing I want to show you was Shell Bay Links, which you'll have seen in the tutorial series and is now available to play. Hopefully most of you know this, but in case not, you can play other courses than the awesome official courses. So if you go up and just search, it does require you to know the name of the course. So we're going to type in Shell Bay Links and that will bring up my new course. And you can see the picture of a hole that you'll have seen a couple of times, which is the sixth. Now, to help you find those courses, I'd highly recommend looking at TGC Tours and joining. It's a great forum. It's a third-party site that's just really good in supporting the game, and almost all of the best designers come out of there, so you'll get some of the very best courses from there. Now, in terms of settings, if you want to play along, I will be going with all defaults. If you want us to change things, weather to clear would avoid any clouds potentially coming over. Time of day I would keep the same. And green speed you may want to bump down to fast or even moderate. The rest of it I'd keep pretty much the same, although if you want wind speed, set medium and then a direction of your choice. There's no particular prevailing wind. Now we're going to play off the black tees at the backs, and we're going to play pin 4 because I've played one a bunch and thought 4 I think was interesting. They're not difficult to easy or vice versa. So whilst we play this, I'm just going to talk through a little bit about the course, how it came to be, things that you see. So you've got the lighting is immediately a little bit overcast. I was fortunate enough to have an advanced edition of the game because I was helping 2K build out and HP build out some of the courses and update the official courses of mine for release. So this was then, once that work was done, this became the project to basically stress test the design, and much in the way that West Yara was last time. Love those animations and that those now happen. Really cool. So we've gone left of the first. The first is a gentle par 5 opener. And I mean, you could potentially still reach from here, but it probably makes more sense to lay up. That said, it depends on the lie. I mean, I've got some trees to go over. There is a lot of risk, but I feel like I can't make it too much worse. Actually, that's pretty good contact. Just bounce through. Now we're in a decent position. There is a little bit of a side hill slope towards these bunkers, but it should stop on there. He says, when it doesn't, kept rolling. That's okay. It's designed to funnel the ball into those bunkers rather than necessarily roll from where it did. But you can't playtest everything. I'm okay with that. And now we've got a wedge shot and we're just hooking it slightly into the middle of the green. But it's an uphill-ish putt. This is the only area where you see the little village behind the course, which I quite liked as a way to integrate the course with the town and just make it feel a bit more realistic. In terms of things that you see, for those of you who are designers, which is probably the majority of those on my channel, none of these grasses were auto-gen. The auto-gen values were completely changing. Some courses had them. When I was originally building this course, it had none of the new fescue as auto-gen. Some of that new fescue was brought in halfway through building it. There was a lot. So, like, whilst you get advanced access, at least we did for these courses, you're playing a very rough and ready version of the game. And HB did an awesome job this time in clearing out a load of the bugs. See, look, he's really happy with that shot. The second one is not a blind hole, but you can't totally see the fairway, so you're just aiming at those bunkers distance and playing off there. We've got a nice front pin here, so this should be much more receptive than on the previous hole. So we just need to stick a little wedge in there. I've got a 50 or 56 will land a little short. Going down 13, so it might go a little bit further. No, I think the 50 is the play. A little partial. Pushed it a touch, but that's a decent leave. Now, just seeing the background made me think of, I need to tell you what the inspirations for this one was. Well, I've always loved Lonsdale Links down in on the Bellarine Peninsula in Australia. I think it's Bellarine. It's kind of just outside of Melbourne. It's an awesome recent renovation of a course. They made it into this kind of pseudo templatey thing. So it's Ogilvy Cockingmead. that was one of it. And then I also drew on bar one heads. I always try to draw on multiple courses because eventually it means you don't copy things and you'll move slightly away. So I tried to bring in the two, and then at certain points it just started becoming kind of what I kind of got the feel for the style, and then built out from there. The third hole, long par three, but as you can see, loads of space to run it up short. You've got helper slopes to this pin. Okay, it's encouraging you to land it even further short, but if you go long, you're ending up in roughly this position. There's a pin right in the middle, and then two on the right hand side, so there's nothing back middle, which would be the toughest by far. If I were to pin there, it's not an easy part. I would hope it would be very doable. Contact, look at all those perfects. Didn't end up in the hole, but that's from my read and how aggressive I was, or lack of. And you start seeing some of the cameras that I was putting in during the designer, so you can see how these work. If you ever want to test these for your own course, you can play them through local match as well, so you can always see how those go. Now this hole, people might get annoyed that you can't necessarily always hit driver, but I don't personally mind that. There's a lot of space for 3-wood. And this will kick towards the right, but might bleed into the light rough, hopefully no further than that. Oh, it's really kicked on, which is good. I wanted the course to play firm and fast. There's quite wide fairways, really. And that's also a product of the circumstances under which it was made. The recent tweaks to difficulty were really recent. So a lot of the time when I was playing this, I was playing it on Legend to playtest it and going 6, 7 under with no issues, and repeatedly flagging to the HP team of just, we need this to be tougher. So now I was never going to adjust the course because I still know the difficulties I'm trying to hit, really, and where I want this to play. That's a gorgeous shot. But yeah, like, it changed. So I was always erring on the side of caution of trying to make it an easy course, hoping that the difficulty would go up, and that brings it to being a more challenging course. Whereas if you set up out to make something really difficult and then they make it more challenging, you're in a tough spot. These cinematic shots from behind the tee with your caddy look so good. You get great field of vision into the planting. And I always love these low areas just to the left of the tee. The fifth is one where you'd have seen on the tutorial series, but basically you just want to stay left of this pin, which is easier to do if you challenge these bunkers. But we're just going to start out right. And even if I fade it, the wind's bringing it back a little. So generous tee shot. But if you find those bunkers on the left, it quickly unravels. And the second shot for a short par 5 is not exactly trivial. So especially with wind coming off this side, we're basically bringing this bunker way into play because 2-iron is too much, 4-iron's too little, and I don't have the choked approach, which might be ideal for this. I'm kind of hoping that I don't hit it in this, and that the wind takes it away, and then that we're not bleeding into those bunkers, which we are going to. Oh, there we go. And now we've got a bunker shot, which I probably wanted to avoid, but at least I've got a lot of green to work with. So you can start seeing, like, I guess as well, how I try to think my way around a course and what I'm doing and why. Now, my execution may not always be there, but the thought process is usually all right. Because at least missing there, I was never going to miss right of the green, which I think would be death. This was a really cool camera shot I did earlier this morning before publishing. Really like how this sets up and how it looks. And this is one of my favourite holes on the course. Again, based on a hole on Lonsdale Links. So this is the 4th there, which is it's inspired by that. It's not exactly the same, but the concept of this low water area you saw there. But yeah, their hole is awesome. At some point, go to their website and have a little look around the holes. No Laying Up also recently did a video there, and It's just a great course, and it's public access, which makes me love it even more. Up for eagle. Don't get those too often. Just going to bleed low. But yeah, I thought with a lot of the new objects and things, there's particularly the fescue helped in getting this look. In terms of creating the plot, I had a rough idea of how I wanted to do it. I knew some bits of what I wanted in terms of the routing. I knew I wanted to come down and do these two sorts of holes. Always love an Eden on a water. So for those of you who aren't aware, there's certain holes that are templates, or known as templates. Basically, they are really good strategic types of holes. So an Eden is typified by a hard back to front sloping green, bunker in front, and basically death behind. Yeah, and that's kind of all it is, but it therefore is a really strategic type of par 3 because you're always trying to leave the ball below the hole, which can be difficult. So I'm just going to pop that down the hill. Hopefully, roll it in. Just about. There we go, he's pretty happy with that. And then you get another little cinematic camera of these bunkers down the side of 8. Really do feel these camera tools, I wasn't planning on using them as much as I have done, but they do lend a very different element to the course and really, I guess, engage you in the round more than even the flyovers, the old flyovers did, I would say. So, question with this one is how much of those bunkers we want to cut off. We can play pretty close to them or we can bail out a bit more, but it is a little uphill as well. And it's quite a sweeping dog leg, but yeah, you could potentially just launch it and go for the waste bunker, but I don't really think that's a sensible way to play it. Quite a nice swing, that one. And that should feed up to the top of the fairway. Just into light rough. That's okay. Toughest pin on the green. You can roll it through this if you want to, and if you have a long enough club. You can also, there's a pin back here that you can work it off this, and it works really nicely with the new game physics. Now, light rough, 5-iron approach. I'm going to try and roll it through and see if I can do it. It needs to be a bit of a partial. There we go. Should slow up a little on there. It's worked out really nicely. But if you had a wood in there, say you were off the beginner golfer, you can actually run it all the way through and it works really well. So one of my favourite green complexes on the course is the 9th. It's really simple. There's just a couple of bunkers around it, but it's also kind of how it just sits above everything, particularly on this left-hand side. On the right side, you're only above a little tee box, so that runoff is not so severe. As you can see, there's gentle light green slopes behind it, so you probably want to be below this pin wherever you can do. Blind tee shot, and you can choose whether you want to hit driver, or if you are hitting driver, you probably don't want to get all of it. That's a terrible shot. And we are now in a lot of trouble. Oh no. I kind of got a very lucky bounce there. I mean, we do have a shot, but this bunker is making that incredibly difficult. Honestly, think I might just bail out down to here. Not a good time for the worst tee shot I've hit, and I couldn't get that remotely far enough. I've seen people ask if the fescue grasses affect your lie. They don't. It's still just planted items. I imagine that would be very hard for them to code. Maybe in a future game, but not for the moment. So it's still the underlying heavy rough texture that's judging my lie percentage. Obviously, coming out of that, I've got no spin. Now we have to hold apart. Quite a lot going left. Just that one awkward little bead going back right, which I'm hoping is enough. It is. It's a very good 4 considering. You can see some of that farmland in the background that you'd have seen in the terrain painting and surface weathering tutorials. Mainly weathering, actually. So this is the 10th that we're about to play. Really fun green site, a load of interest with that spine going into it as well. And as a par 5, I feel like I've got a bit more license to do some, should we say, interesting things on the greens. That's a terrible tee shot as well. Pulled, shoved 2 in a row now, way right. And that might make up my decision for me. So we're not going to be, if you look at that, that's really buried. So we're just hacking something out towards kind of the top of the hill. Oh, no, we've even missed that. Suddenly completely lost my swing. At least I've done it on a par 5 where I've still got some hope of getting it up and down. It says looking at the pin and off the slope. I mean, where was that swing a couple of shots ago? I think it's going to be a bogey, but at least we're on. No, we're still not onto the green. Maybe not a bogey. Maybe we've got a fourth shot. Now, unfortunately, one of the most frustrating decisions that's been made is the implementation of this tie spinner, which is just not a shot I've ever really seen used or expected used, and it gets you out of all sorts of situations way too easily. Plus, it's locked behind the clubhouse pass, which I would be fine with if it wasn't the most powerful shot in the game, which it currently is. And look at the type of shot, it should be way harder to hit than it actually is. So that's one that I will be banging on the drum to, like, they need to nerf that shot because it just renders a lot of short siding yourself, which is otherwise in a really good position, kind of pointless. This one's really tough in that you've got outbounds tight down the left, and we've got these bunkers down the right. And it's just you got to suck up and hit a good shot and have again shoved it out to the right. I think this bunker is going to be a very common place for people to find themselves. And right up against the lip is not nice. We're only going to be able to get a 9 iron on it, which may get us to the front of the green if we're lucky. Just about managed it. Yeah, it's not getting us to the front of the green. And after about that 8th hole, it's been a little ropey. That said, lots of green to work with. You can see that the benefits of the lighting just looks really good in this game. Oh, I've pushed that as well. Get in the light rough. Not a good shot. But that's a pretty good chip. Almost went in and saved my par, but that shot has been coming for a while. If I had one camera back, it would be this one. It just moves too quickly. I forgot to turn down the auto easing and slow it down. Now it's a little bit nauseous. Still, the hole itself, really nice as like a short template. 125. Has a marginally better tee shot, but still pushing it at the bottom of the swing. It's going to be in one of those low portions. I always liked with this one the concept of some of the shorts, you get these really large greens and quite bold slopes, but the pins are tricky to get to. I thought that was quite a cool juxtaposition compared to how I might usually do a short par 3 where it's tiny targets everywhere. Still, make a par again. Got to find a birdie somewhere soon. Now this hole is very risk reward. It's one of my favourites that I've built on the course. It's also a nod to the road hole at Lonsdale, which is just one of my favourite real life holes. So you'll certainly spot similarities. They are intended. Right, we're going to try and take it over that tree, I think. It's one where you think I've been shoving it right forever. I keep aiming right. I haven't quite got all of it. I thought it was carrying. No. Well, at least we've got a decent angle in. So if that goes short, it's not bad. There are worse misses. Still a tricky putt though. Didn't think I could give that too much. Annoyingly, because I've missed it on the high side, it's still a nasty comebacker. Cool little panorama here. This is one of those lower third cameras that they will just intersperse on different holes. Now, in this case, it's done that because I forgot to record a pre-hole camera for this hole. So, but it gives you an idea of how those work as well. This one for me is always a 3-wood. It's not a long hole, but you really just want to take the water out of play. If you want to hit driver and try and get way down there, you can do. I would always steer clear of all the trouble, and you've only got 155 in, 150 in, which can be as little as a wedge. You really step on it. That said, it's on a teeny tiny tier and it's quite elevated. I liked the boldness of this green and didn't really want to soften that. So there are some greens on here that are very subtle. There are some that are much bolder. It's kind of because courses I was drawing from also do a bit of everything. That's a nice approach shot. A little push draw and everything, which is cool to see that you can. It's cool for you guys to see that you can get those shots just by how you play for them as well, how you execute, which is nice. So 15 here. This one's inspired by a hole I played over the summer at Silathon Solway. There's their signature, inverted commas hole, is a par 5 stroke index 1, which is on this big diagonal ridge. Well, it's not diagonal for them. It's on this giant ridge line that falls off both ways. And if you miss that fairway on your second shot, you are just absolutely dead. It's therefore just a really challenging and interesting hole. With this one, you can get there in 2 pretty comfortably, so you don't need to take on those bunkers with driver if you don't feel you want to or have to. But it's then about, I thought, to video gamify this hole a little bit. If you're playing it straight on like the Silith one, that's kind of easy. Whereas if we put it on an angle, it makes it more challenging and asks a few more questions. And then we've just shoved it way right again. Appears to be the common miss. Oof. Hey. See if we can get up and down. That is not... That's a good shot. Very happy with that. Oh, and then did all the hard stuff and then put a terrible stroke on it. So you'd have seen that that meter was all me just hitting a really bad stroke on there, which is why it's shoved right. Another nice little pre-hole shot on 16, getting across the farmland towards that hole by waste bunkers. One other thing I liked with this is the ability to mix and match these duney waste bunkers with the more maintained ones. And Lonsdale is a course that does that as well. Bar 1 does far more of the maintained style. If I drew from Bar 1, it was mainly in terms of environment rather than actual hole design. The hole designs were more Lonsdale. Oh, that's got to get down. We're going to need to be very, very lucky, and we're not. See, putting the par 3 right up against the out of bounds in previous games would never have been an issue. But in this game, you can hit it there. And particularly into the wind, it just takes one bad swing, which we just got. Disappointing when the second one's dead centre of the green, and dead centre of the green on this one's a good leave to most hole locations. See, can we save a bogey? Oh, I've overhit that, I think, so that needs to get in. Oh, it does. We'll take that. Again, it's a shot dropped, which is frustrating, but given the circumstances, and that's a cool the replay system they brought in is much, much better than it was. And I like the little look at the trees and the grasses in the background. Just goes to show that you will see your course from every angle in this game. You'll also notice down there's some of the old grasses and plants mixed in with some of the new stuff. Just because there is new stuff doesn't mean you have to use that for everything. You can mix and match, and I think you'll get some cool looks that way. So 17, I guess, would be kind of a signature hole for the course as well. Ugh, not a good tee shot at all. And we are now in... Ooh, we're in a lot of problems. I don't think I can hit through there. Oh, and I do not want to be hitting any sort of hook towards out of bounds with a golfer who can't really do very much. What about if we just punch something through and hope? I don't think it's getting through this, but got to try. Oh, it did. If I'd had a better layup option, I would 100% have not played that shot, but I'm actually delighted with where that's ended up. Okay, now for the third shot. You're still dealing with the out of bounds down the right. That's the bit we want to play away from. And our little fader is going to be all right as long as we aim left. That's done pretty well. God, this back nine has been a struggle. Just going to chip it on, let it roll out. Nice shot. Yeah, I tried to simulate some little hay bales, but the actual hay bales they give you in the designer are really costly, so I didn't want to touch them. 2 under. Got 2 shots to play with down 18, and this is one of the cameras you'd have seen me doing in the tutorial series. Really liked how this opened up that hole as well. And I always wanted 18 to be playing kind of through the middle of the course and take me back out. So you get a last little look at that lake in the background. That was always the plan anyway. Ah, finally a decent drive. Definitely overswinging at the moment, but work out on this one. It's actually quite a nice driving hole. Even though it's a long hole, it should set up fairly forgiving off the tee. And yeah, for a 500-yard par 4 to end up with you hitting a partial 9-iron, yeah, shows that it's A, not that bad, and B, the state of distance. Oh, just that contact. Everything else was good for once. Okay. Well, we just need to get this on there and rolling, really. A couple of bounces before it went on, and then it skips on through. Might only end up making 1 under, which is not a good score considering there's basically no wind. I hope what you've seen from this is it's not a course that I've tried to trick up. It's just, and it plays really well with the new game, both on beginner and like more leveled up golfers. My guy, believe it or not, based on how I played, is 93 overall at this point. But a greenskeeper, so I poured a lot of stuff into putts on the green, how those play. And yeah, then this is your menu camera at the end, which I don't know if it loops or if it just stays there as you go or if it just stops. We'll see. But yeah, and then you get your player progression and the usual stuff. Equipment progression, you can see where we're getting on with those. I've picked up quite a few through career mode. In terms of the scorecard, I think UI looks pretty nice as well. So 2 over on the back, which doesn't surprise me. I was really hanging on some of those holes. Distances about similar for each of them, although the back is an extra R5 on there. So could argue that I should have been picking up more shots on there rather than the outward 9. But there are some shorter par 4s on the outward 9 as well. So yeah. Anyway, I will plan on doing a few more of these. Hope you give this one a spin, and I'll try and highlight some other courses that you should look at playing as well. Hopefully you enjoy, and see you again soon.